customer service. So in the U.S., we have a rapidly evolving healthcare system, and our president has one of his main points is to try to improve healthcare. And one of the tenets that he has is that if you want to be eligible for federal money and state money reimbursing you for serving the elderly or the poor, then you have to meet certain criteria. And one of those criteria is around customer service. And specifically, they conduct these surveys of the customers to say, how long did it take you to schedule that appointment? And when you arrived for your appointment, how long did you wait to see the healthcare professional, the nurse or the doctor? And how long did you have to wait afterwards to get your prescription or schedule the next appointment? So scheduling suddenly is front and center because the survey responses are the test and the proof point that determine eligibility for reimbursement. So the head of finance for the hospital cares quite a bit about how they're doing on customer service because he wants to be eligible to participate in those public programs. So suddenly scheduling is paramount. And so when they start to think about scheduling, the problem is they typically have a few folks in the office where the doctor sits, but then the doctor refers you out to a lab to have some blood work done, so you have to schedule to go do that, and that's a different front office person sitting in that office. And then they want you to go see a specialist after you've seen your general care doctor. And so there may be 3 or 4 different events that need to be scheduled as a result of one visit to the doctor. So what they've done now is they've centralized scheduling for all of their facilities. And by the way, you know, the doctor that's in facility A on Tuesdays and Thursdays is in facility B on Mondays and Wednesdays, and he plays golf on Fridays, so you can't reach him. And so you have to know the schedule, and sometimes the schedule changes. And so you can imagine the scheduling is quite a challenge. So we have one healthcare facility who has invested tremendously in their scheduling platform and centralized scheduling for their 30 locations around the United States. And each location really has then a couple of dozen locations within that facility, different scheduling entities. And then sometimes they're, of course, loaning out space in their hospital for private practice physicians who are nearby who then want to tie into the same scheduling system. So you have this massive scheduling mess, and they've centralized it, put a lot of investment in IT to interact between the call center that's handling that scheduling activity and the scheduling software that they use, and then conducted their own survey to close the loop so they can get out ahead and measure their own performance before the government measures it and starts determining their market size based on their performance. So this is a classic example of connecting the back office to the front office. Once they did all the scheduling, which was really a front office function, then they said, wait a minute, what if the lab results aren't ready? So I see you, the doctor, and you say, come back and see me next Thursday. In the meantime, get some blood work done. I go to you to get the blood work done, but something goes wrong. I'm late. Something happens. The results don't get back. Your office knows the results aren't back, so you proactively call me and say, we're not going to have you come in tomorrow because the results aren't back, so there won't be a productive follow-up. We're going to reschedule. Does Thursday or Friday work for you? And they could do that via text. They could do that via a proactive phone call, depending on how the person has chosen to interact. Or perhaps it'll be a prescription. You know, you're scheduled for your next refill, but you're out of refills. So we're going to proactively tell you that you need to go see the doctor with this much window before your prescription is up in order for you to not run out. And so these are tying the back office systems to the front office systems, to the contact center, and allowing them to deliver a significantly differentiated customer experience. Initially for compliance and financial reasons, but ultimately a customer service benefit, customer engagement benefit. So one example. I met with another company earlier this week, actually, and it's an airline. And we were thinking that this airline happens to also own the duty-free business. They're here in the room with us, but I don't want to spill any beans. But you know, we started brainstorming. How could we connect front office to back office? And I start thinking about that, and I think about, well, couldn't we send you a text that says, hey, you're arriving on a flight. It's a flight you've taken before, and the last 2 times you've taken it, you purchased something at the duty-free. Maybe it was a bottle of perfume. So we know this, and so couldn't we send you a note before you even head for the airport, because you're busy doing your business, and say, hey, we know you're taking this flight, looking forward to having you. By the way, we see you've been purchasing perfume, would you like to have a bottle waiting when you board the flight? Click here to select the brand. And so all of a sudden, instead of having to leave time to bring home something for the person who's been managing the family without you for a week, it's all automated for you. Perhaps that's a customer engagement. So we were just brainstorming, afterwards, after this one particular meeting, about the types of things you can do when you tie a back office system, perhaps related to, in this case, duty-free, or perhaps it's related to a loyalty program, into the front office of the contact center. And you can do this all proactively. So these are the types of things we want to do. These are the types of experiences we want to enable. This is what we believe we have the foundation to do. I'm not sure that's what it says on this slide, but that's what I think about it when I think about the center of the slide, the customer experience. And again, this is the vision that we have, and this is the type of brainstorming and the type of collaboration we want to do with you all to improve the customer experiences you're delivering. So what does this mean for Aspect? What does this mean in terms of how we think, what are we doing about it, about helping you deliver those types of experiences? So it starts with the team. Many of you have heard a little bit from me and perhaps before today about some of the changes in our leadership. I think if you look quickly, you could come to a variety of conclusions about this. So let me try to help you with the conclusion that I've reached. About half of this team is new. So this is the senior leadership team of the company. So these two positions are new positions. Spence is here in the room with us. You'll hear from him later. But Chris and Spence both are general managers now, positions that didn't exist before. These are looking after the two sides of our portfolio. Interaction management on the one side, contact center traditionally, and optimization, workforce management, workforce optimization products. And now that really extends to back office optimization as well as a result of the February product announcement that we did, which is Aspect Process Optimization, which we'll talk about more later. So, two business units. That's a new structure for us to divide it so distinctly and clearly and allow them to manage all aspects of those businesses while still harnessing the resources of the rest of the company. Jim is also a new position. Chief Marketing Officer, the VP of Marketing who we had before, still here. We brought in a more senior executive to look after a broader set of responsibilities related to marketing. So 3 new positions that didn't exist before. I think this is significant to note because it should signal that our sponsors, we're a private equity-owned firm. Golden Gate Capital is the major equity holder. For those of you who don't know Golden Gate, just 1 minute on them. If they were a company, they represent, I believe it's about $22 billion a year in software revenues. So they'd be the 3rd largest software company, I think, in the world if they were a company and didn't manage it as an equity portfolio. All software, that's pretty much all they do. And they've been our sponsor and our primary equity holder for a little over 8-9 years now. And so this is not just a recent investment, suddenly, adding some new leaders because they just bought the company. This is someone who's been in it for a while. We're a good performing company in their portfolio. And so they've sort of doubled down on their investment in terms of bringing in some new leadership to augment the team that we have to try to take Aspect to the next level. They recognize the growing complexity for our customers, the growing complexity of our business, and the need to invest in some increased leadership. So 3 new positions. We also have 3 veterans who many of you may know. Mike Regan running R&D, Gwen running technical services, and David running professional services. So veterans, the majority of our employees work for those 3. And then we've brought in, most notably a new CEO and a new CFO. Bob, the CFO, came from Genesis last year, about July timeframe. Stu had been on the board for about 9 months before joining as the CEO in August. Stu and Spence worked together along with Frank in previous lives and in the software business, in the customer engagement software business specifically, within the Golden Gate portfolio. So Stu was the CEO of a company called Escalate Software, which was bought by a company called Red Prairie. This is in the online retail space primarily, and Spence will probably tell you a little bit more about it later if there's time. But the point there is these are a couple executives who really understand customer engagement. And again, I think it helps to, when you think about Aspect, think not PBX guys, not even call center guys. I wouldn't even think of us just as contact center folks. I would think of us as a portfolio of products to help with customer engagement. And that's how I think of the space we're in. And it also gives you an idea of perhaps some of the things we'll do with Golden Gate's help in terms of augmenting the product line, both with our own R&D, which we've increased 25% this year over last year, so infused the R&D budget with an incremental level of funding, but also I expect continued inorganic growth and rounding out the portfolio with best-in-class products from outside the company, sometimes through partnership, sometimes through acquisition. There'll be a variety of approaches. Those two product announcements we made most recently, Aspect Social and Aspect Process Optimization, both came through partnership. So that's the leadership team. How do we look at the market? Well, we talked a little bit earlier about customer experience. And these are some of the things that we see shifting within the market. So there's a lot of words in this slide. I had to decide whether I could really afford to go through them all. So these are some of the shifts we see in the market. This is our attempt to tell you that what we see you all having to deal with every day. Again, you probably could have written the slide, and most of you probably could have done it better than I. But what we see is pure play evolving to solution combinations, and that those solution combinations need to be available in a lot of different business models. So one of the most fundamental things we're changing at Aspect, since really one of the major conclusions about 6-8 months ago as the new team came together, was we need to really make sure that every one of our products is available in a variety of business models. Rental, managed, cloud or hosted, sometimes multi-tenant, but sometimes dedicated hosted, because many of you have unique requirements and have enough need for scale that you still want a dedicated platform. But all of these are on-demand type models, flexible licensing approaches. So that's a big part of our focus. We also recognize that you're dealing with the consumerization of IT. Okay? Bring your own device, prevalent in many enterprise networks. Probably eventually you'll have a place in all of them. Customer behavior, we talked about this a little bit. Before, the customers sort of had to react to the technology. Now the customers are driving the technology agenda. I want a mobile app. That's how I want to deal with you. Because if you want to do business with me, you must provide me a mobile application. Or, I want to order online. I don't want to go to your store. I want to pick it up at the store, but not go to the store to make the decision. I want to be notified via text message, not email. I want to be notified via email, not a phone call. So they're setting the agenda. And they're setting the agenda within their own employers, enterprises, from a technology standpoint, productivity tools, but they're also setting the agenda with those they choose to, the brands they choose to do business with. Price and performance. So, for a long time, whoops, I did it again. For a long time, this was the driver of many IT decisions. And when we did forecasting of budgets, we expected a certain improvement. Murphy's Law, converted to a business rule, converted to an IT planning tool, right? We expected performance improvements of X percentage in X period of time. Now, we see the complexity is far greater. And so we have more dimensions to manage, more variables, and we really have to focus on an architecture that allows us to do that, as opposed to simply a price-performance curve. We, the collective we, not we Aspect. This is really what we see you guys having to deal with. It used to be that we would take our best solution consultant and line them up with your deepest technical expert and have them figure out the solution. And then the business would figure out what they could do with that to drive the business, right? That maybe not exactly true every place, but a lot of times that's what it felt like anyway, in terms of engaging between our technical staff and your decision-making process. Now we see it very different. We see that things have shifted a bit within the IT line of business dynamic, and now it's more the line of business says, this is what we're trying to achieve, this is what our customers are demanding of us. Can you figure out how to do that for us in IT? And it's both enlightening and enabling for IT, because they get sort of more of a clean sheet of paper to say, let's be creative about how we solve. They should get a little more license on how to solve